Welcome to the Business Vitality Podcast. My name is Catherine Cantey. I am the host and an executive coach. I work with teams, individuals, and leaders to help create a measured leadership change. We do that using practical application, and our clients are creating 100% measured results as seen by those around them. Not necessarily what I think or what they think, but what the other people are seeing. And they are being recognized for the hard work that they're doing. If you're interested in learning more about some of the work that we're doing, you can learn more at catherinecantey.com. I would love for you to subscribe to this show, to Business Vitality. This is my way to continue to pay it forward and share business best practices. Stay tuned and listen to the interview. Thanks for being here. Susan Power, you are the founder and CEO of PowerUp Leadership, found on the web at PowerUpLeadership.ca. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate the opportunity, Catherine.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a fun conversation. And before we even kind of get into some of the depths of the conversation, I'm curious, can you kind of explain a little bit about the work that you're doing and how it found you?
Yeah, thank you for the question. My background is I spent 20 years in corporate, and for the past 6 years, I've been building up a coaching, learning, development company called PowerUp Leadership in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada. And I was introduced to the world of coaching when I was working as an executive HR director and was tasked with building the leadership effectiveness of the team. And I wasn't sure where to start. So I started to research it and discovered coaching and got really fascinated about how coaching can transform managers into phenomenal leaders. And that's where the process started.
That's fantastic. So you spent 20 years in corporate, and then how many years have you been, I say, recovering from corporate?
I've been building Power Up Leadership for the past 6 years, and it's my second business. I had another business called Higher Talent in St. John's, Newfoundland, that I sold in 2016 to return to corporate. And I think, once you get a taste of entrepreneurship, if you are like a true entrepreneur, it always pulls you back. So I was in corporate for about 2 years, and then I returned and started up Power Up Leadership.
Yeah, it sounds like your gut keeps taking you back into that creativity mode, and you figured out ways to creatively pull people and pull their talents out, which is a gift to be able to do. So that's fantastic.
How many years have you had your practice for, Catherine?
I'm going into my 5th year now, and much like you, I spent 20 years in corporate. So what you're talking about is hitting home close to me. And yeah, what I like about it is that creativity space to be able to really tailor and build deeper one-on-one relationships with clients and teams. So it's fun.
I agree. I think entrepreneurship, my coach always describes it as the ultimate personal development program, that every day there's opportunities to learn something new and get better. And that's what keeps me hooked on it as well.
Yeah. So when we were, I guess some of the preview information that we were kind of processing before we hit record, you were able to share that trust is really at the foundation of a lot of the work that we're doing within organizations. It's the foundation of pretty much anybody who's going to create influence. And I did a YouTube live not too long ago with Patrick Lencioni's book of the 5 dysfunctions of team.
Cool.
And really it starts with trust. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. What are your thoughts around trust and the importance of it? Maybe you have an example of a story or two of where it really created a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, it's a great question. I love Patrick Lencioni's book as well. It's a great resource. So I always think there's a famous Ernest Hemingway quote on trust. And he says, the only way to know if you can trust somebody is to trust somebody, right? Like that's the only way to test if they are trustworthy. And the other day I was facilitating a trust exercise with the senior management team at a municipality. And it was the second of 2 sessions. We had gone through the 5 behaviors of a cohesive team assessment based on that book by Patrick Lencioni, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. And it was so interesting to me to see the difference between the first conversation 3 weeks ago and the second one yesterday morning. I could see the progression. Like the first conversation, the team was talking about where can we do better on building trust? Because like many leaders, I think when they lead a department, they will prioritize that team over their peer group, the senior management team. And it takes some collaboration and some thought partnership to figure out, well, how do we work together as a solid senior management team? Because if there's not trust there, it's only going to negatively impact all the departmental teams and the rest of the organization. So that's what I think of just having the conversation with the group and talking about, what does trust mean to me? What does it mean to you? Where are there gaps on our senior management team? What can we do better next week, next month, next quarter, that sort of thing.
You just raised a really good point, and it does tie back into Patrick's book. And, when I hit record, I never know where these conversations are going to go. And that's kind of the fun part. But as a recovering perfectionist, I'm also like, oh, I don't know where it's going to go. So here I am kind of stretching myself. But talking about Patrick's book, and I was working with a client and just kind of reiterated it, and then brought it to another client. And he said, oh my gosh, this is a sign, because my girlfriend gave it to me and it's on top of my reading stack by the bed. And now you're talking about it. I'm like, it's some good stuff that's in this book. And you talk about trust, you talk about team. What makes me really curious is people think, or managers that we work with, they tend to think that the team are the people that reports to them. And you talked about a different team, and I know Patrick writes about it as well. Talk about that one team and the team that you were just kind of referencing, and the importance of that team and how it's different than our direct report team. Does that make sense? I know that was a very long question.
No, it makes perfect sense. And I observe exactly the same thing that you mentioned. People think of who reports into me, that's my core team. But in this case, a senior management team reporting into a CAO of a municipality, they might meet every 2 weeks together, right? And some of their projects overlap and they collaborate, and some are very distinct to their functional area. So sometimes people think, this is almost an administrative exercise. This isn't as valuable as the team I work with side by side each and every day. But the fact of the matter is, the culture of the organization is created at that senior level, and the strategy and the priorities, and the organization won't function any more effectively than that most senior team operates side by side in terms of recognizing each other's wins, supporting each other if something goes off the rails, and really, rowing in the same direction, because there's usually more overlap in initiatives than people originally see when they first start working together as a senior management team. And that's what comes to mind from my perspective. I'm sure there's other things I'm missing. What do you think of when you think of it?
I think it's just easy. It's easy for us to default to, I have my direct reports and that's where I can create influence. And influence is a whole nother conversation, because I think influence is not just the people that report to you. That's easy influence. I think influence is across the organization with people who don't report to you.
Yes.
And what you're talking about with that particular team, I've just seen it over and over again, that you have a team that you're a part of, but we just get it confused of who's the real team that we're here to serve. And being able to maybe we go down the path here for influence. How do you influence your peers when you're on that senior team? Do you have any? I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, what's coming to mind when I listen to, that's easy when you influence your direct reports because they report into you. I think of human resources. I spent my career in human resources. So when I'm talking to any HR professional, we come from the same world. Often we might look at things similarly. We have had some similar experiences, but if I'm dealing with finance or engineering, different type of training, different type of mindset attracts a different type of person that that's where the biggest growth opportunities are, and that's where sometimes there's clash on the senior management team because they see things so differently and they have different challenges, but they can really grow and advance each other's leadership and influence each other and learn from each other to elevate the entire organization. And that's what I think is so exciting about that peer level team when they come from different functional areas, that there's opportunity to stretch and grow from each other.
Yeah. Do you have a particular story that comes to mind bringing that team together with I think so often we live in these silos and then we come together for that senior team meeting and have to be able to share ideas. Do you have a particular story of just kind of that transformation that you've seen through the use of coaching, or even when you were in corporate, of like, wow, that created something significant that is now going to pivot us?
Yeah, one example that I think of is a sales executive who I've had the privilege of working with for the past 9 months, and she's local in my area, but she had gone through a career transition where she took on a new internal role, responsible for growing a brand new sales territory, and she had been in a very mature region previously, and later on in her career. So this was a big change for her. And just the mindset shift that she made, like initially, this is the impossible task. How am I going to do this? Like, what do they expect of me? Why am I put into this role, to killing it, like completely killing her sales targets, like, and the confidence of, yeah, like the team is just like, wow, like you did that. Like, that was just amazing. And just seeing the momentum of, and I mean, I know I'm biased because I'm a coach, you're a coach, but
Mhm.
I really see the impact. She did all the hard work, but just as the external coach, kind of going along the journey with her, I can see the impact and the influence of coaching when someone buys into it, and how she was able to take that and translate it into action. And I just think it's really cool when you can tie it to business results and see people execute and win through coaching.
Yeah. It is. It's fun to see it, and to be able to have somebody that's starting out and they're kind of like, "Oh, I don't know if I can do this." And you use the word momentum. I love the word momentum. We just try to find these small wins along the way just to give them a little bit of courage to keep stretching and keep growing. And some great stuff happens as a result. And at the core of it is mindset, because if we don't believe that we can do this, it's going to take a toll on us. And I love the fact you brought up mindset. Do you have any tricks that help with getting us in the right mindset when we have significant change, like what you just talked about, going from a top tier region to maybe starting up something from scratch? What are your mindset tricks?
I think you just brought up a really good one, Catherine, when you talk about like celebrating the small wins, because senior leaders often don't get that from their managers or leaders because they're so busy and they just think, oh, they don't need it. They're so senior. So that helps a lot with mindset. Another one my coach always talks about is being a collector of beliefs. We all have negative beliefs, self-limiting beliefs, because we're human beings, and creating new beliefs and constantly pushing ourselves to challenge any self-limiting beliefs, which a coach can help do by asking the right question, can really help people succeed. And it changes what opportunities they see and the action they'll take just based on that mindset and belief.
Yeah, it totally changes everything. And, sometimes when you're working on your mindset, you also have to improve or put focus on your confidence of like, how are you going to present yourself with that confidence as you head into some of these new challenges, new opportunities that are coming your way? Where are maybe some ideas of how you've maybe worked with some people in regards to presenting that confidence, maybe in a time when it wasn't so easy for them?
Yeah, I don't know if you find this, Catherine, but it surprised me when I went into coaching how many people, that's their number one thing, confidence, that they need to
Mhm.
work on, and they bring that to the coach. Like, I'm talking about very successful, like on paper, very, very successful people, and really beating themselves up and struggling with confidence. And I think it would surprise a lot of people who worked with them if they knew that was their internal dialogue that they were having with themselves. So again, like starting with the beliefs and the assumptions, and asking them questions of, okay, let's look at this. Like, tell me about what are your biggest wins that you've had this week. And sometimes just by asking them that question and having them reflect on it, they'll start to give themselves some credit for what they have achieved. So they're not over indexing on what they haven't achieved. Because sometimes these high performers, perfectionists, they concentrate on the two things that they didn't get done on their list when they've done so much that they don't even really give themselves credit for, or feel that accomplishment that they really deserve.
Yeah, it's easy for a lot of people, I think, just to celebrate other people before they want to celebrate themselves, and they feel awkward doing it. But how we treat ourselves is also a reflection of how we're treating other people, and it just builds on that. And we need to have, at least I think, we need to have a little bit more self-compassion towards ourselves, and maybe reduce a little bit of the judgment, just to kind of ease that, ease those beliefs that maybe are buried back in the back of our head, that kind of sometimes creep out.
Yeah, and sometimes too, I think people just aren't completely self-aware of how, they might be treating themselves as like they would never talk to a friend the way that they talk to themselves sometimes. And through the coaching process, that can really rise to the surface, where they take stock of that and realize, yeah, like maybe I am not really looking at this completely objectively or in a compassionate way.
Yeah, I think that is dead on. I was listening to a Zoom yesterday, and they were talking about how they don't have any compassion for themselves, but they're building up everybody else around them. And I thought, oh no, that's not going to be sustainable. Like, you're just going to continue to hurt yourself and eventually hurt the team, because you're kind of self-destructing yourself in a way.
Yeah, exactly. It's not sustainable in the long term, right? Like, and people sometimes say, I don't need recognition, I don't need appreciation, but I think they're fooling themselves, because every human being needs that and can benefit from that. So I think that's it's not very truthful when people say that.
When we were kind of preparing for this, you had mentioned that matching leadership styles to others is really important. I would love to hear your thoughts around, how do we effectively match leadership styles to those that are around us in order to continue to drive that change and production that we're looking for?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And when you say that, I kind of reflect on the different leadership styles I've encountered in my career. And the ones that are most influential, when you see them interact with different people in the room with different personalities, different backgrounds, they're the ones that can match and pivot their style to meet the person where they're at. So whether that's, like, I think of the simple example of meeting with an engineer that might be more analytical, data focused, and really taking the approach of speaking to them in numbers, and being maybe less emotional or passionate in the dialogue if they're more of a, fact-based approach, logic-based approach. So making it more comfortable for the other person to communicate in whatever communication style they have. Maybe they need more time to digest. They want to take it away and come back. So you're not pushing as hard for a decision in the moment if that's their style, or maybe they're more action oriented, and you're making decisions on the fly with them. So really understanding the person you're communicating with, and trying your best to meet their style to make the conversation flow fluidly from their perspective.
That's really hard to do if we stop and think about it. If we're not doing that today, that's hard
It
to
is
be able
hard.
to slow down with the engineer and just stick with facts, and not gush out on all kinds of detail and stuff that we've all seen happen. And we're like, ooh, that's not going to work well if you're a fly on the wall and you're kind of watching that. And then,
So hard.
oh my gosh, have we not seen these conversations? And we're like, I just want to leave the room because this is not going to work.
Yeah, because we all get into habits, like all of us, about how we communicate based on our lens, our experiences, our preferences. So it is a really hard thing. And I think of, do you ever use the DISC communications
Yeah.
assessment? Like that's a great work style communications assessment that gives different suggestions on how to pivot to communicate with an opposite style and where you might land into friction. So I think the first step is reflecting on, well, what's my style? What might be hard for me? And what could I do differently when I'm dealing with someone with a completely different style?
Yeah, I love DISC, and I don't know if anybody's listening. I think it's just a great, easy resource to be able to adopt and to be able to bring into any team environment. I know we used it when I was at the bank. We used it for the sales program that I put together, and it was fantastic. Like, it created self-awareness. And then when it comes from a sales and negotiation standpoint, I thought it was fascinating. They said, if you know what your style is and you know what the other person's style is, then you're able to make it an easier conversation. But if you knew their first and second style of who you're presenting to, your opportunity to create influence and close were like next to, almost done. Like, it was just going to be a great success because of communication and what it would do for that relationship. Have you seen this same thing? I see you nodding your head, so I can't help but ask.
I'm thinking of, I don't know if this is exactly what you're talking about, but it's some type of addition you can add on LinkedIn. So I've seen, someone showed me this one day. You can see the communication style of a sales prospect you might be meeting to know their disc style. And I never added it to my Chrome or whatever the attachment was, but I remember thinking, this is unreal. Like, how can you, this is information overload. Like, it's a little bit creepy too. At the same time, someone can look that up about you, but very powerful.
That makes me think about AI, and I think there's so much going on with artificial intelligence and connecting with people, communicating with people, creating efficiencies in the workplace. Have you started kind of dabbling and exploring with what AI can do? I'm curious just to hear what's going on in Canada with some AI.
Yeah. There's so much to learn with AI. I try to definitely integrate it. Like the other day, I was working on a team charter from a facilitated session, and I had the output from the session that was on my old school style flip chart paper that I had transcribed. So I fed it into ChatGPT to see, okay, create a team charter based on this input. It did an okay job, but I've read it, I'm like, I don't feel inspired. So then I changed the prompt, write an inspiring team charter. And it was just like a poem. It was a little bit too much for kind of a corporate environment. So then I asked ChatGPT, take this and write a team charter like an engineer would write it. And it hit it just on the mark. It was just right. Like, getting the tone right in the document was kind of the tricky part. But my understanding is the prompts can make such a difference that you give it. So that's as far as I've gotten. I'm still playing with ChatGPT. I know there's a lot more to AI than that, but that's been my focus. How about yourself?
Yeah, I started playing around with ChatGPT probably 6 months ago. I've taken a couple classes and I love it. And I think you're right. It stems back down to the prompts that we feed it, much like any communication or any relationship. We're going to get out what we give. And if we don't give them good information, we're probably not going to get that great answer. And just like you talked about the different prompts that you tried, kind of like is it Goldilocks and the Three Bears? You try one, try one, and oh wait, this one works. And it may not hit the mark 100% of the time, but good gracious, it can reduce the amount of just time it takes for me to be able to type up something very lengthy. And then I realize I use too many words because I want to make it easy to communicate with somebody. And then just to be able to clarify messages, I think has been really a game changer in regards to using some of that. And I know some of my corporate clients, they're like, "Ooh, don't use that word. We're going to get kicked off this Teams meeting if my AI reads that we're talking about AI." I'm like, I think we can find the middle road here, and we can figure out what's the best of both worlds. When do we need to be talking face to face, and when do we just need a recap of a meeting and gain some efficiencies in our day?
It's such a competitive advantage. I think that any company that's not looking at AI right now, they're going to be in big trouble a couple of years from now. So it's so fascinating.
It is fascinating. I love it. I mean, I'm sure it's going to probably open up all kinds of other doors, but it again, is just my curiosity of, okay, where's this going to take us? So, but
Mhm.
we want to keep learning and growing and doing new things. So this will be another opportunity. Tell
100%.
me, yeah, tell me a little bit. You said you've got a program that's coming up, or you have a program in place, coaching skills for managers. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. So, we are offering a free 60-minute masterclass. It's every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern. So, we have it coming up today. And it's really about how managers can transform into leaders through coaching their employees. And we've developed a broader 14-hour public program. So, it's a blend of training, private coaching, group coaching, a number of diagnostics. And it's really meant to support managers so they can learn the fundamentals of coaching. Because the pain point of a lot of middle managers is they run out of hours in the day. They're in meetings all day. They're reviewing their employees' work at night and the weekends, and they feel like they're micromanaging because they're not getting back the quality work they want. As you know, as a coach, coaching can transform that, where they're upskilling their employees through coaching, and they're inspiring them to deliver and supporting them to grow their skills so they don't have to feed them every step by step by step of the process. So that's the intention of the program, to teach managers how to coach. And would love to have any of your listeners sign up for a free masterclass, and I can provide the link to you if you like.
Fantastic. Yes, I would love that. And if someone is interested in wanting to learn more about the work that you're doing, Susan, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
PowerUpLeadership.ca is our website. They're welcome to email me as well, Susan at PowerUpLeadership.ca. And yeah, just thank you so much for the opportunity to come on your podcast today. It's been a real pleasure meeting you and speaking with you today, Catherine.
Thank you, Susan. I appreciate everything that you are doing. It's exciting to get to kind of brainstorm with another coach. A few hours, more than a few hours away from me in South Carolina. You're in Canada, so it's great. But at the core of it are really good practical applications that hopefully our listeners can take and be able to run with a few of these ideas. Susan Power, you are the founder and CEO of Power Up Leadership, found on the web at PowerUpLeadership.ca. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the episode. If you like it, please subscribe, share this episode or this show with other people around you. The greatest form of a compliment is a referral. I really appreciate them. And if you think that you want to learn more about some of the work we're doing, I encourage you to reach out to CatherineCantey.com. You can schedule a call or just continue to read articles and information that we post out there. Thank you so much for being here.